Okay, so yeah, let's talk about the review process, y'all. So currently, I have a very crude sheet of my reviews, and I want to kind of go over what I'm looking for in each of those things. And this is kind of something that I've been thinking about quite extensively over the past couple of days. And so currently, there are five categories, not 10, but 5 categories that I look for in games: music, art, gameplay, story, and then the overall. We're going to expand it to include a recommendation category and a personal opinion category. So instead of overall, it's going to split into those two things. So we're looking at music, art, gameplay, story, recommendation, and personal opinion. So, honestly, there's a lot of things that kind of go into it, right? So we'll start with music. Music is, I want to go off of how memorable the soundtrack is and how immersed it can leave you in the game. So a good example is Dark Souls. To me, doesn't have like a lot of memorable, doesn't have a memorable OST, but when I'm in the game, it fits, and it's really freaking good. Bloodborne, Kingdom Hearts. I don't remember any of the music from Kingdom Hearts actually, so that might go down, but it wasn't bad if I remember correctly. We have Hollow Knight. That was an 8 out of 10. That was really chilling music, and I will still listen to it on my Spotify. So that's good. We have Pokemon Emerald. A lot of the Pokemon games have a pretty solid soundtrack, but they're not necessarily like memorable. Sorry, that's the correct word. But like I think that if we say 10 is really memorable, I'll go out of my way to listen to the soundtrack and it fit in the game, and like 1 or 0 is just awful. I don't remember any of it, and it was just kind of out of place, right? I don't really have a good game that's on the low end except for Kingdom Hearts, and that was 6 out of 10. So that's kind of where I want to go with the music. I mean, do y'all think that's good? I think it lends itself to better describing the game itself. Kitty. It kind of lends itself to the game itself. If all of these categories are basically, does it work well with the game? Does it help people get into the game and enjoy it a lot more? That's what we're looking for. Next is art. So this one was a little bit like, I don't want it to be super subjective, but I mean, that's a review, right? So the way we're going to do art is, does it help the game make sense to the player that's playing it? So if the art direction, say it's a futuristic kind of game, is it all flashing everywhere, bright lights, a whole bunch of stuff? Is it too much? Like, does it distract from the gameplay itself? Does it distract from the story? Is it easy to find things in menus? Does it lead you to a certain way? Is it cluttered? Is it not? Games that have a pretty simple UI and menus that are easy to go with. I would probably say like Hollow Knight actually had a pretty good menu system and good art style. It wasn't distracting from the game itself. I think it was really well done. A game that didn't have good art would probably be Tokyo Mirage Sessions, is what I said. So 3 out of 10. If I think about it, the art, it was a little out of place and jarring. You had all these futuristic things in not the metaverse. Oh my god. The illusory areas. They were very distracting, and I felt like a lot of the things there didn't make sense. Like, it was just kind of there to be there. The menus were a little bit the transitions were fluid, but the menus were okay. Like, I didn't have an easy way to heal my party besides going through 4 different things to get to the items. But the battle menu, it was alright. I liked a lot of the interactions between, you know, how they told you, like, hey, you shouldn't attack this, or hey, this is really weak to it, it's good to go. You know, it was a very mixed bunch of things, but ultimately it fell short because of the design decision for the illusory place, and just it wanted to be in a future kind of Tokyo, but also modern day Tokyo is jarring. But yeah, art will be how does it help us understand what's happening in the game. And then gameplay. So gameplay would be how fluid everything is. So if we think of Dark Souls or Bloodborne, the game itself is very fluid. You know exactly what's going to happen. Boss fights are a different thing, of course, but combat, you kind of knew what was going on. You know, if you ran out of stamina, you had the things right there to tell you, hey, you probably shouldn't do that anymore. You saw where you were going to go. You had all this information to you, like, presented to you that you could actually use. And it was very simple, very clean, and you got it. But then you had, well, Final Fantasy Tactics is the lowest one on this list. Gameplay for that one, you know, it was very difficult to see what was going to happen. You couldn't really make a lot of informed decisions right off the bat. You had to look for it. There wasn't really an easy way to find these menus or the information to bring all this stuff up. And that really detracted from making the gameplay very fluid. And there's often a lot of interruptions while that was going on. It's like, hey, you know, I want to move, but I only want to move once I know what this guy's gonna do. Or can I find out what he's doing, what he has available to him? That's kind of, I got kind of spoiled based off the newer tactical RPGs. So that's a mixed bag right there. But part of the reason why we're playing all these old games is to see, like, do they actually hold up, right? Compared to all these new games that are coming out, are these still good enough to be playing, you know? The 4th category is story. So this one is storytelling, so quality versus content of the story, right? So a lot of my scores here are a little bit low. Tokyo Mirage Sessions, that story wasn't, the content of the story was bad, and also the quality stuff is bad, right? So it was a very basic story. I didn't really get attached to the characters as much as I thought I would, and the storytelling wasn't really there. It was very much like, we can do anything with the power of friendship, but it was bad. I'm fine with that kind of story, but you gotta make it more interesting, you know? But, you know, good stories have... They lead you along, and they tell you what's happening, and they can foreshadow, they can construct a lot of good subplots if necessary. And we often like the content of a story, and we overlook the storytelling aspect. A good example of this is The Last of Us 2. Very mixed. I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of spoilers, if any, but, you know, you had the storytelling, amazing. I knew what was going on. I didn't agree with it. And that's like the content, right? I personally didn't care for the content, but it was there. It was really good. So that's story, right? We want to weigh storytelling versus story content, but we want to look at it as objectively as we can. So that's something I'm gonna need to work on, just in general as a reviewer and a player of RPGs and single player stories. What does it mean to separate storytelling versus content and quality? But enough of that. That's the fourth category. So overall was the fifth one, right? And that was a combination of what I felt about the games and based off all the scores and rough averaging of all that stuff. That's okay, right? I think it would be much better if I divided it into recommendation and personal opinion, right? So would I recommend a game based off of all the objective things that I can see, right? So I would, for example, I would recommend The Last of Us 2. Personally, I don't care for it, right? Through all the things that I've seen of the game after playing all the way through, I don't see any value in keeping the game in my collection. I don't think it's a very good game, but objectively, it is a very good game. If you like the kind of story, you would like the game. I think that kind of explains where the direction of the reviews are going to go. Do y'all have any thoughts on it? Do y'all see anything flawed with it so far? I also wanted to say all this because I wanted to hear this later once I'm editing the video, and I want to really hold on to all that stuff. Does more money tossed into a game really suggest it's an objectively good game? It depends on what you mean by that. Like, I don't think that the more people that buy a game makes it a good game, unless it's a multiplayer game and the community is, that's the community, right? But the more money dumped into a game can make it a better game. It does not make it a good game. But if you feel, I mean, that's why it's a recommendation, right? I would recommend you play it, but you might see me recommend a game, in my opinion, be different, and go off of my opinion. I feel as though what makes good art isn't so much doing what works and what's standard, but rather pushing and innovating the genre. Same goes for video games. I can see that, yeah. But since I've been playing a whole bunch of older games and trying to compare them to newer games, I don't think I can mention that it's an innovative thing, or with video games in general. I can say they were very innovative during this time. But if the goal of the stream or of the review is to say, would I play this older game versus over this new game? Well, it doesn't matter if the old game has been super innovative and all that stuff. If it's a bad game, I'm gonna say it's a bad game. I can see what they're doing, and I'm glad they did it, because then it probably impacted some other games way later, But yeah, I want to go back through this later, write these things down, and I want to put them below the stream, and I think that would really help us streamline what we're looking for in these games, and also give some people who don't necessarily know that I review, this is what I'm looking for in these games. This seems like a fun conversation piece, kind of like Dune. Not really a good movie, but fun to talk about. Yeah, and I also want to spark a lot of discussions about these older games. What's good things from all of these older games that we'd like to see in the newer ones, or that are in the newer ones, or have inspired the newer ones. It's a whole bunch of discussions, and I want to help facilitate all those discussions as best I can. By giving objective things about the game, or at least as much objectivity that I can give, and then my personal opinion, and then we can kind of talk about all that kind of stuff. I think that would make it fun. I think that it would also give my YouTube channel, some more content that's actually like not just 2-hour blocks of me playing games. As much as I love Let's Plays, I mean that's not giving me any views, you know. That's a whole nother thing. But you know, I also want to make a Google document with all of my scores. That way I don't have to use this piece of paper all the time. But I guess we'll also use this time to let's talk about some of the games that we kind of want to see that are coming up. You know, I want to play through Ghost of Tsushima, but I don't think I'll do that before next week. Obviously, there's Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. There's Tales games. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I would like to play on stream, but with the amount of time that I have to stream, I wish I could play more games, more popular games. You know, I think it would be very fun to be able to play more recent releases on stream rather than a lot of these old games. But I also want to mix between them, you know? I don't know. It's definitely a mixed Skies of Arcadia one day. One day! So if you have a game that you'd like me to play, new or old, put it in there. Single player, I'm fine with it. Local co-op, I'm fine with it. Yeah, my only ask is that you try to keep it as close to an RPG as you can. As much as I would like to play Borderlands or League of Legends, God no League of Legends. Keep me away from it. But you know, I really enjoy all the suggestions that you guys have given me, and it's wonderful to see that when people are telling me like, hey, you should try playing this game, but also I get some feedback from it as well. You guys want to see more. You want to see older games. You want to see newer games. I enjoy it. I really do. Yeah. So okay, let's see. We talked about review process. Yeah, we had some discussion about the overall review process, and that's why I wanted to do just chatting for a little bit, because I want to hear what you guys think of it. I want to actually put it in words what I'm thinking, and I want to be able to write something up later and put it below the stream. That way everyone can see it. It'll have its own panel, all that kind of stuff. I also want to kind of understand what I'm trying to do a little bit more. You know, anyone can just start up a stream and play games, and maybe not anyone, but it's very accessible to do it. But that's not the goal of my streaming, you know. I sometimes lose sight of it, and I just play the games to play the games. I don't look at the game for what it's doing and for what it's trying to tell me as a player. And I don't think that does a good service to the developers of that game, you know. Patrick doing deep streams, philosophical streams. Yeah, you know it. Yeah, I think we are good now. I think we've kind of exhausted this topic quite a bit.